For Brampton North has the floor.
In addition, I'd like to thank the Right Honourable Prime Minister for giving me the opportunity to do so. I want to also take this chance to congratulate each elected member of this House and recognize that we could not be here without the support of some very important people in our lives. I would like to thank my parents, my husband Tejinder Sahota, and our son Nihal for their encouragement and support. It is a great honor and a privilege to serve my constituents of Brampton North here in the 42nd Parliament. I want to thank them for putting their trust in me, and in return, I am committed to serving them with the utmost integrity, humility, and hard work. Mr. Speaker, I was raised in the city of Brampton. I attended its schools, played in its parks, and made my closest friends there. And it is where my family has chosen to make our home. I know firsthand how vibrant and full of promise this city is, and I believe it reflects the true potential of Canada from coast to coast to coast. Brampton embodies the diversity of Canada with its growing population of 600,000, making it Canada's 9th largest city. It is home to Canadians from various backgrounds, with 50% of its population being born outside of Canada. Over 65% of Brampton's population is that of a visible minority, speaking upwards to 80 different languages, including Punjabi, Portuguese, Urdu, Spanish, Gujarati, Hindi, and so on. Over the last 30 years, I have seen this community, time and time again, come together and strengthen its diversity in unity. His Excellency spoke about how the Canada we know and hold dear today is an accumulation of the diversity and experiences of its people and the way they treat each other. That is why our government is steadfast in its commitment to welcoming and integrating 25,000 new Canadians from Syria. These refugees have faced extreme hardship and tragedies, and we will ensure that, like all Canadians, they have a fair and real chance to succeed. It is the Canadian thing to do. Similarly, our First Nations and Indigenous people right here at home have also faced extreme hardship and injustice. The disappearance and death of nearly 1,200 Indigenous women and girls is an ongoing national tragedy and must come to an end. Hear, hear. Therefore, we will immediately launch a national public inquiry into the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls in Canada. During this last election, Canadians have resoundingly refused to play into the politics of fear. I have received numerous emails and phone calls from my constituents expressing their support for our government's international actions. We will continue to reinforce and strengthen our relations with our allies and work with them to fight against terrorism. Our government will renew our commitment to UN peacekeeping operations and strengthen our reputation for environmental stewardship. Canada will once again lead by example. And to lead, Canada must invest in its future by investing in infrastructure. Our government's historical infrastructure commitment is critical to the prosperity of cities across Canada, like my own. The transit infrastructure spending will not only help alleviate traffic congestion in our community, but will also allow people to spend more time with their loved ones and bring jobs closer to home. The development of social infrastructure is the foundation of a strong society. One of our core Canadian values is to take care of those that are vulnerable. In Brampton, the wait times for affordable housing is a shocking 10 years. This is unacceptable, and our government is invested in taking a leadership role to help build more housing units, refurbish existing ones, renew existing co-ops, and provide greater funding to support municipalities. This approach will assist those who need it the most, especially struggling low-income families, single-parent families, and vulnerable seniors. To offer greater flexibility in childcare needs, we will create the Canada Child Benefit to put more money back in the pockets of middle-class and low-income families. This will lift 315,000 Canadian children out of poverty. Together with social infrastructure, this will act as a vehicle in uplifting the status of women, along with giving children a head start in life and offering families the flexibility that is needed in the 21st century. Universal health care is a hallmark of our nation, and we cannot fall behind on building upon it to meet the growing demands of Canadians. While remaining at the forefront of innovation and research, the government will work with the provinces and territories on a new health accord. Just as important as investing in transit and social infrastructure, Canada must plan for the future and invest in green technologies. Canadians share a deep love for the outdoors and a sense of responsibility to protect our environment for the future generations. Therefore, we will be working with the provinces to take action on climate change, invest in clean technologies, and create clean jobs. Our government firmly believes that a clean environment and a strong economy can and do go hand in hand. The middle class is the heart of the Canadian economy. The best way to grow our economy is by strengthening the middle class and helping those working hard to join it. The end goal is to ensure that Canadians can manage the cost of living. After knocking on countless doors and listening to Canadians, This is their #1 priority, and it will be the #1 priority of this government. The middle class has not seen a decent pay raise in 30 years, and they are struggling to make ends meet in the face of rising costs. This is why our first act of business will be to introduce and pass legislation to implement a tax cut for the middle class. As previously mentioned, we will also create the Canada Child Benefit to ensure that it helps those that need it the most. It is only when the middle class thrives that all Canadians thrive. The Governor General mentioned that Canadians gave us a clear mandate, but to govern, a clear mandate to govern. But we cannot achieve this mandate without support. We are committed to working across the aisle and partnering with our provincial and local counterparts to achieve the best for Canadians. In Ontario, our mayors, our city and regional councillors, and our MPPs have welcomed me and my colleagues with open arms. I look forward to cooperating on numerous matters, including enhancing the Canadian pension plan to provide more for income security for Canadians when they retire, so that they can do so with dignity, as they are the ones that have worked so hard to build this nation. We will also work with the provinces and territories to make post-secondary education more affordable, so that it is still possible in a country like ours for people of all socioeconomic backgrounds to achieve the Canadian dream, to send their sons and daughters to world-renowned schools without taking out a second mortgage, and so that our youth are not discouraged from pursuing higher education and attaining the skills they need to compete in this global economy. His Excellency raised the importance of restoring trust in our political institutions and ensuring that Canadians are given a stronger voice in Parliament. This government is determined to do just that. 2015 marks not only the year we brought in a gender-balanced cabinet, but it will also be the last federal election under the first past-the-post voting system. In addition to reforming how members are elected, we will reform the Senate to ensure its appointments are merit-based and non-partisan, strengthening its independent role as a chamber. Beginning to see a more open and transparent government, and we will continue this new tone by promoting more open debates and free votes in this House, strengthening our committees, and welcoming the opinions of everyday Canadians. Canada is geographically large, but united in its common goal of peace, order, and good governance. Mr. Speaker, I believe that under this new government and the leadership of our Right Honourable Prime Minister, we will bring forth an era of positive change and prosperity and put divisive tactics aside and no longer hold on to the politics of fear. We must not forget that diversity is our country's best asset and not our weakness. That is why I am proud to stand with a government that is making it easier for immigrants to build a successful life in Canada. Reunite with their families, embrace economic opportunities, and contribute to Canada's prosperity. Many of us are here today, including myself, because at some point our families were welcomed as immigrants with open arms. This gave them the opportunity, and all of us here today, to be nation builders. I encourage all honourable members of this House to support today's motion. I stand before you today, a woman, a mother, a wife, and a proud daughter of immigrant parents. For me, it is both an honour and a pleasure to support the motion on the address in reply to the speech from the throne. Thank you.
Questions and comments? Honourable member for South Surrey White Rock.
Hear, hear. Hear.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is an honour to be representing my riding in the constituents of South Surrey White Rock. You know, Mr. Speaker, I was surprised in the speech from the throne that was missing was a clear outline on how much the government was planning to borrow and what they were planning to spend it on. Now, during the election, the Liberals promised that there would be a deficit of no more than $10 billion per year for the next 3 years. And however, this week's report from the Parliamentary Budget Officer already predicts that the government will run deficits of $12 billion over and above the promised $10 billion yearly deficit. So Canadians need to have an open and transparent account of exactly what this government will spend. And Mr. Speaker, in the spirit of openness and transparency, will the honourable member please outline the government's plan so Canadians will know exactly how much they will be paying in extra and additional taxes?
Honourable member for Brampton North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First, I would like to congratulate my colleague on her election. Second, our government was given a clear mandate to invest in our country, and that we plan to do. We will be decreasing taxes for the middle class, and we will also be open and transparent with our spending. In the weeks to come, you will see the budget unfold, and you will have answers to some of those questions. But tax cuts will be decreased. Thank you.
Questions and comments? Honourable member for Vancouver East.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As this is my first opportunity to rise in this House, let me take this opportunity to congratulate you for being re-elected in this chamber and for your successful election yesterday as our Speaker. I would also like to congratulate the member from Brampton North for her election and for her excellent first speech, and to let her know, Mr. Speaker, that I am looking forward to working with her and indeed all members of this House to making Canada a better place for all Canadians for future generations. Bravo. Now, of course, I would be remiss if I do not recognize the very people, the great people from Vancouver East, for electing me to send me here to Ottawa to bring a strong voice, East Van voice, to the House of Commons. I intend to speak more about my riding, my beautiful riding, and the priorities for the people from my community in the days to come as I make my maiden speech in the House of Commons. I would like to ask my colleague from Brampton North a question about what the government said in the throne speech about their commitment to combat climate change. The speech from the throne suggested that the government would introduce a new environmental assessment process. This is certainly very encouraging to hear. The environmental assessment process must go along with achievable reduction targets, though, so I would like to ask, first, if the government will actually set ambitious, accountable emission reduction targets with annual progress reports for meeting the targets that are already enshrined in law. And second, if the government's new environmental assessment process will include climate impact assessments so that new projects will not be derailed concrete reduction targets. Third, the new environmental assessment process, would this apply to current...
Order. Honourable member for Brampton North.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to thank my colleague from Vancouver East on her wonderful question and also congratulate you on your election as well.
Order. Order. I remind members to address the chair.
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, our mandate on the environment has been made quite clear in our ministerially mandate letters that have been posted online, which has been done for the very first time in government's history. So I think this is a great step forward for open and transparent government. And we are also committed to working with our provinces to make sure that we are in line with the province's needs and what they're required to do on environmental change.
Questions and comments? The honourable member for Perth Wellington.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am proud to represent the people of Perth Wellington in this House. In my riding, as in many other ridings in Southern Ontario, jobs are the main concern. The new Liberal government is now suggesting that it will increase taxes on job creators, and questions remain concerning international trade agreements. As we know, Canada is a trading nation which requires open markets. Can this member reassure Canadians and members of this House that her government will support the TPP and abandon its plan to raise taxes on job creators?
The honourable member for Brampton North.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my honourable colleague from Perth Wellington for his question and also congratulate you on your election as well. Our government is committed, Mr. Speaker, our government is committed to cooperating with across the aisle on international agreements and making sure that trade is a priority for our country in order to grow our economy. Mr. Speaker, however, we must also always balance the interests of Canadians with those agreements, and our government is committed to making sure we achieve the correct balance when doing so. Thank you.
Questions and comments? We have time for a very short question from the member from St. Catharines.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, thank you. I'm honored and humbled to be here, to rise in this House, my very first opportunity. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the people of St. Catharines, Ontario, for their trust, and to my family for their support through this lengthy election and this transition time. To my honourable friend, I have an important question. Though the people of St. Catharines, Ontario are hopeful, almost 23% of children in St. Catharines are living in poverty. That's nearly 1 in 4, struggling on a daily basis like so many others across Canada. Can my honourable friend please inform the House how our government will tackle the issue of child poverty in Canada and St. Catharines? Thank you.
Honourable member for Brampton North, a very short answer.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague from St. Catharines for his question and congratulate you on your election also. Our government will be creating the Canada Child Benefit Plan, with which 9 out of 10 families will receive the assistance that they deserve, and 315,000 children